Hey guys, I'm Amira and welcome to Open Up. This is your communication podcast and I am your host, also known as the communication expert. I'm your podcast host, your life coach, and also a speaker. Each and every single week, I'm going to be bringing you conversations to help you level up the way that you communicate, whether that's with yourself or in your relationships. Through each conversation, you're going to leave with food for thought, skills that you didn't know you needed, and ways to develop your relationships. So join me here as you learn the lessons that you didn't get to learn at school. Pull up a seat and join us as we open up. Welcome, guys, to a brand new season on the Open Up podcast. We are back. I want to say better than ever. That's because I try and level up every single season. So I say we have a new team. We have a new team plus new people. Okay, so new team. Same. We have a new studio. I had nothing to do with it at all, but the guys worked incredibly hard and I'm super grateful. We know how I feel about gratitude in my life. I literally can see them spudding each other behind the camera, being like, yeah, we did a good team. We did a good job. But honestly, studio, it feels like we got a different energy. We're leveling up. You know, guys, I'm bringing you new guests. So I want every season for us to explore something that we haven't, or to go back on something that perhaps we need like a deeper look at. I know I'm a deep person. I fully will own that now. But I also think there's so many things that we didn't get taught at school. And I had a conversation earlier where someone needs to go and have a hard conversation with somebody. And these are the things that we either avoid or we do really, really badly. So the whole point of this is thinking about how you want to get better in your relationships, personally, professionally, like family-wise, friend-wise. Somebody said to me the other day, like, I feel like a friendship's ending and I don't know whether I should end it and let it go or like make amends because I feel so bad for letting it go. And this was a person in their 50s. So the types of things are going to help you, whoever you are, whatever you do for a living, whatever stage of life you're in. So as I said, we're back for season 5, bigger and better, hopefully. One thing I haven't asked you guys this season is like, who do you want to hear from? So please drop me a DM, drop me an email. I always get my people that will say, Amira, I'm not on social media. How do you want me to contact you? I always say Instagram is my office. It's like when I arrive in the morning and when I clock off at night. But if you don't want to DM me, drop me an email. I cannot promise that I'm going to get the guests that you want. However, I'm definitely going to try. And I'm also going to ask the team to help me. So please let me know, like, who do you want to hear from? We've got some beautiful guests this season coming up and a real like variety as well. So as it is also a new season, I feel like I need to honor this chapter change in my life. But we came back as a missus, which I really tried to be low-key about for the whole year and keep it under wraps. And I think loads of questions have kind of come in around like, why did you get married abroad? How did you do it? All those kind of things. And I was trying to be super low-key about it. I was just like, yeah, we can just continue. And having gone through it, I will definitely say, hands down, the best 3 days of my life. And exceeded what I had imagined. However, I'm probably doing this episode more than anything because one of my beautiful listeners and followers messaged me and said, Amira, I followed you from the beginning. I've learned so much from you and I can't wait to like see you grow through this chapter of your life. And he really made me realize that this is a new chapter of my life. And I want to tie it into the podcast. And it only feels right that we open up a brand new season where I'm going to talk about how I manifested my dream dress. Now, for my male listeners, do not switch off at this point, okay? You might not need to manifest your dream dress. And also people that are not getting married, you might think, how is this relevant to me? But I talk about manifesting a hell of a lot. It's at the core of, I think, what we all do. We're just not very intentional about it. And there's a whole heap of myths around it as to why it can sometimes feel hard. So I'm going to use my experience to give you the tools that you are going to need to help you manifest. And I'm also going to share the ones that work really well for me. I always say, as much as there are principles around manifesting, a big thing is understanding what works for you. And there will be some tools that will work better for you than it will be for somebody else. So like, remember, you have full permission, absolutely full permission to find things that work for you. So let's take a trip down memory lane and I will share exactly how I manifested this dream dress. And I'm actually super proud. So I'm going to say, let's rewind probably to the beginning of the year. If you're listening to this episode and it's not in real time, then I'm going to say just like rewind to maybe 7 months ago or 8 months ago. And we kind of decided going into the new year that this was going to be the year that we get married. And, you know, most people will tell you need a year lead time, generally speaking. Now, I like to go against the odds. I like to push boundaries. So I thought, what? We've got a whole 8 or 9 months. We're going to be completely fine. Now, although that's the time frame that we started with, maybe fast forward another 2 or 3 months because I got busy with work and I hadn't actually bothered to look at a dress. I hadn't really bothered to go and do any shopping. So I finally, maybe another 3 months later, this means we're probably maybe 7 months out, I think. I finally took my mum and said, right, we're going to go dress shopping. Now, before we had, anyone that really is really close to me and knows this, I use Pinterest like probably someone else uses iMessenger, okay? It is how I bring everything I truly want in my life to life. And I'm a super visual person. It's also as well how I put my outfits together, which I know the guys are going to appreciate. But I am just super visual, and that's why Pinterest really helps me. So I wasn't actually that girl that grew up and really dreamed of getting married. I really wasn't that bothered about it, is my honest answer, okay? However, the one thing that I had on my Pinterest board was possible wedding dresses, because out of everything, that's a pretty key part of the day. So people have asked me, do I know what I wanted? Or how clear was I on it? And I would say that from my Pinterest board, there was a variety, because I probably have a really varied style, and sometimes I'll go super classic, sometimes I'll be super sporty or tomboyish, and sometimes I'll want to try and funk it up a little bit. So whilst I thought I had an idea, and my Pinterest is a huge part of how I manifested it, and I want to come back to that when I give you a tool later on in the episode, I kind of was clear and I also wasn't clear. So let's take it back to when I took my mum dress shopping and why actually it was I say just not a great experience at all. I was going to say horrendous, but probably a little bit of an exaggeration. So anyway, took mum shopping and I think we had 2 or 3 shops booked that day. And at the time, there was one shop I was going to that I was adamant had my dress. And I was set on something really fitted, super simple, stinky, and that's it. I went and every single dress I tried on, I absolutely hated. I was like, what is this rubbish? I was like, nothing suits me. And I honestly, truly left that day feeling so demotivated. And I think my mum at the time was honestly trying to lift me up. I think we went for brunch or something afterwards. And she's like, oh, this is just the start of it. It's completely fine. Don't worry, you're going to find something. And I was just so incredibly put off that I actually didn't walk back into a wedding dress shop after that. Now, in that day, there was one dress that was a possibility. But if you asked me at the time, it was if I had to pick out of a bad bunch. But this is important to the story. So let's fast forward another couple of months. Amira still hadn't done any dress shopping. I had got super busy with work. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that when we go into the next solo episode, because lots of people have asked me, did I have a wedding planner? How did I manage business and wedding? Because I'm just going to let you know that me and Mr. Louis Q now say we could be unofficial wedding planners. So I will talk about that in the next episode. But work had got really busy and another couple of months had passed and I still hadn't gone dress shopping. And we'd essentially got to a point in May. So bear in mind, we were maybe 5 months out at this point. Yeah, 5 months out. I still had no dress. And we were getting ready for our civil ceremony, which I'll talk way more about in the next episode. And I remember I found this dress on Pinterest and I screenshotted it and I sent it to my sister and I said, I don't really know if my outfit's going to work tomorrow, but I found my dress for September. This is 100% what I'm walking down the aisle in. And she was like, great, fabulous. Like, where's the shop? Where are we going to go and try this on? And I was like, oh, can't find the shop anywhere. The designer's Australian. And she was like, okay, well, he must stock in London. I was like, no, I've done really good research. Can't find him in London, but I just know this is going to be my dress. And I looked at the message the other day and I was like, oh, quite proud of that message. So anyway, we did our civil ceremony. A few weeks had passed. My sister was like, have you messaged him? I was like, no. For some reason, don't know why, I DM'd him. I do not know why I did not email him, but I didn't. I DM'd him. And naturally, it went into his message request. So I think like another month or so had passed and I hadn't heard anything from him at all. And we then were going to go and view the venue. And at this point, the day we landed, he actually messaged and said, I'm so sorry, I've missed your message. Just wanted to check in and see, like, is this something you still want? And I was like, yes. So we just landed, we were like going to view the venue again. I was like, this is meant to be. See, I knew. Now I'm going to talk about feelings when it comes to manifesting and just pause the story here, okay? There are some things that I know in my absolute core that I can manifest. And this is when I talk about connecting to like the feeling. Why do you want whatever it is that you want? Because you have to understand why it's important to you. Now, I know that can be really hard because for me as well, I can manifest incredibly well when I just know in my core. And you could challenge me and you could ask me, well, Amira, what do you do and how do you manifest when things don't feel that clear and you're not always sure? So for me, this was like an easy thing to manifest, although there were still hurdles and challenges to overcome. It felt easy because as soon as I sent that screenshot to my sister, I knew in my heart that that's what I was walking down the aisle in. So when I say connecting to the feeling, it's like, why do you want it? Why does it appeal to you? Why is it important to you? And for me, probably a huge piece of like who I am around. I mean, I talk about this day in and day out. My clients are going to laugh so hard when they hear me say this, but I talk about authenticity, and a really big piece for me is being unique. And so I wanted a unique dress. I wanted something that probably as well was going to surprise people. And I think a lot of people had expected me to turn up in one thing and I turned up in something completely different. But I just knew that I wanted to feel really, really good. And I wanted to feel that it was unique and it was for me, not that it was for me and like 10 other people. So I always say, try and connect to how you want to feel when you have that manifestation and hold on to that feeling and see if you can embody it. I don't know if that's a practical enough point when I'm explaining it, but it's so important because if you can't connect to why you want it, then you're going to really struggle to bring it into reality. And I know as well, like when we talk about, I'll do a few episodes as we go into the new year in terms of habit building and your goals and really setting your intentions for the year. But often we're trying to manifest or set goals that they aren't really the things that we want. They're just not. You're trying to manifest something because you think you should have it, or it's going to give you a social status, or it's going to look good, or from a society point of view, you think you should. So it really comes down to when you're manifesting. If you can't connect to the feeling, I want you to ask yourself, like, is it something that you actually truly want in your core? Okay, back to the story. So he messaged me and I was literally ecstatic. I was on the way to my Pilates class. We were staying at this venue and I was like, this is our dream venue. I'm so happy. It's like 30 degrees. We all know how I feel about vitamin D. And like the designer has just messaged me and said, yes, Amira, I can do this. So I got really excited and I messaged him back. But then we had another hurdle. So I was a little bit apprehensive and worried about whether he could do it in the time frame. He said no problem. I also said to him, okay, you're in Australia, I'm in London. He also said no problem. And then he hit me with the price. Now, when he hit me with the price, let's just say it was nowhere within budget. It wasn't like, oh, Amira, go back to the drawing board and let's do a little bit of a recheck. It was, like, just cut the conversation. So in true Amira communication style, I dropped him a message. I was super honest. And I said to him, thank you, like beyond belief, thank you. I'm so grateful to you. However, this is nowhere near my price range. and I don't want to discredit you as a designer and what you do. And he's renowned in what he does. And I don't want people to undervalue my worth and what I do. And so I really try and give that energy back into the world and how I communicate and operate with people. So he actually came back and asked me, what could I do? What would be more within my reason? And so we had this conversation and we came to agreement where it was going to work for me and work for him. And he agreed. And this was a huge, huge part, because on paper, that wasn't within my price range and wasn't something that I would have necessarily been able to get. So thank you, universe. And so that was the first piece in terms of like getting over that hurdle and really understanding that I think I sent him so many voice notes and so many thank you messages because I really wanted him to know that I didn't take that lightly, that to my core, I was so grateful that he was willing to adapt. And also, this is a huge part of manifesting as well in terms of like people around you. And I'm also going to talk a little bit around where people will try and limit you and project themselves onto you. And I'm probably going to do a whole different episode on projection because it has a huge part of like where miscommunications come in. And also something's happened really recently which kind of triggered this thought process for me. And I feel that like if we're not aware of where people are projecting onto us, we often take that on for ourselves. And that's not your responsibility. You've got to learn how to put that down. So let's rewind. I really just wanted him to know how grateful I was. And afterwards, actually, he said yes and we agreed it. And he said, no problem. I'm going to be able to get this to you in time. I was like, really? We were like, I think mid-July by this point. He's like, yeah, I can make it in X amount of time. If you can pay me in 2 parts and do it this way, then I can make sure that it's going to arrive on time for you. And I was like, no. He's like, yes, not a problem. But I also sent him all these messages and I was like, okay, but the model that I've seen it on, like she's a different frame and a different size to me. Do you think that it's going to suit me? What do you think? And just his level of care in terms of he had all the time to talk to me. It felt like nothing was too much effort. And he even said to me, I've watched your YouTube videos. Don't worry. I know it's going to suit you. And it was just that level of attention to detail and customer care that made me feel so loved and so valued. And it goes back to the feeling of how I felt when I was manifesting this. So one thing I want to talk about is when people, I say, are limiting you when you're manifesting something. So some people love to share their manifestations. Some people like to keep things close to their chest. I wouldn't say that there is a rule or a way that you should do it, but what I would say is do and honor what feels good for you. So in the beginning, I think shared with a couple of people. I think people had asked me where I was at with my wedding dress shopping. And I was like, yeah, no, haven't felt anything. I haven't seen anything yet. And they were like, Amira, like, you've got less than 5 months. I was like, no, I know that. And I know that you're trying to be helpful, but you're stating the obvious. And that's not really helping me right now. And I think in my like absolute core, I knew that this other dress that I'd mentioned that was a possibility. I actually ended up going back to try it on for a second time. And I remember the lady in the shop actually put so much pressure on me in terms of time frame. She was like, you basically need to tell us today whether you want it, otherwise it's not going to come in time. And I was just like, I'm going to look so boring wearing this. And I was just like, I'm buying it because I feel like I'm going to run out of an option. And it wasn't chump change. Let's just put it that way. So I was like, and I was so torn. And at this point, I hadn't got the DM back. So I hadn't got the message back. I didn't know I was going to have this other dress. And I had to just really trust in that moment that I didn't want to settle for something. And this goes for whatever you're manifesting, especially when it comes to relationships. Like, if you know in your core, if you're accepting less than like your value or your worth, this is where the universe like tests you and challenges you and is pushing you. Like, do you really truly trust in your core that something is going to be yours, or are you going to accept something from a space of fear? So whether I'm talking about manifesting my dress, or you're trying to manifest your next career move, or your partner, the same principles still apply. So anyway, I actually, after much debate with myself, actually said no to that. And then the DM came through, I think like a few weeks after. So it did work out, and it worked out really, really well. But the other thing I wanted to come back to is people will share, probably with very, very good intentions, right? Their experiences, their knowledge. And so sometimes when I'm manifesting things, especially if they're incredibly important to me and what I deem to be like big things, then I try to keep it to myself because I don't want other people's doubt projected onto me. And so many people said to me, Amira, you need a lead time of a year on a dress. I was like, great, I don't have it. So what are we going to do? And I can laugh about it now. I wouldn't say I was stressed through it at all. I think I really, really, truly did trust the process. However, I knew I also had to block out the noise. And that's one thing I want to say, that when you're manifesting, if you want to share and you feel like it feels really good sharing with people, great, go for it. But equally, if it doesn't and it feels like you're just opening yourself up to their limitations or their obstacles or their challenges, as much as they might be trying to be helpful, then don't tell them. It's totally okay. So 2 things I want to talk about when you're manifesting that I guess I was really reminded of when I was going through this process. So the first thing is, sometimes we have the belief that manifesting something big is harder to manifest. And I said to you right at the beginning of this episode that manifesting my dream dress was easy. That doesn't mean there weren't obstacles. It doesn't mean that I wasn't challenged, and it doesn't mean I didn't have to trust the process. But in my core from the get-go, I knew that was it. I couldn't tell you how it was going to happen. I just knew. But there are other things in my life, and I'll talk about this more as I kind of grow through this, because I don't feel now is the time to talk about it. But there's something in my life that I'm desperately trying to manifest. The fact I use the word desperately probably says everything. And for me, it feels like a big thing. But this is the one thing I want to say when you're manifesting. The universe has no idea whether it's something big or whether it's something small. It's about the energy that you attract when you're manifesting it. And the thing that I'm really struggling with or finding difficult to manifest, I know that it's because at a core level, I don't believe that I deserve it. And it's weird to say it because consciously I'm like, yeah, I do. But I don't. Underneath that, my subconscious programming is like, reject. And until I do that work, I can tell you pretty much it's not going to happen. But it still feels frustrating. And even though I know all that, there's still so much work I need to do around it in order to manifest it into my life. So try not to say, oh, it's so big, I can't manifest this. And sometimes when we have this like deep desire to bring something into our life, whether it's like you want to be CEO of a business or like you want to travel the world, and that feels like the furthest thing from what you can do right now, then try to get out of your head. It's not about the size of something or how big or small something is. It doesn't actually matter to the universe. It's more about your energy around it and your subconscious beliefs, which I promise you I'll do a separate episode on. Okay, I think the last and final thing I'm going to share with you is a tool that I swear by, and it really, really works for me. Now, it is a huge, incredible piece of manifesting, but I also think there's lots of different ways that you could do this. So for me, I talked about my Pinterest board, but the tool around that is being able to visualize. So I am a very, very visual person. And I use my Pinterest board to bring things to life. But when you want to bring something into life, part of that process is being able to visualize. So what is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? How are you going to spend your time? And for me, like I said, I screenshotted it and sent the picture to my sister. I was like, this is what I'm walking down the aisle in. And every single time, I don't even have to shut my eyes when I visualize, but every single time I thought about walking down the aisle, I knew that that's what I was going to be wearing. And I knew that every single time I pictured it, like that's what I was wearing. And I just knew it to my absolute core. So if you're struggling, let's make this super practical and maybe make this as like a work environment. Let's say that you've got to deliver a presentation or you've got to stand up on stage and speak and you literally are rocked to your core with nerves, a huge part of you being able to overcome that is visualize. Like, visualize yourself as the person that you want to be or the person you want to become. So if you want to be a speaker, then embody that, like visualize that and really truly take that on. So what does it feel like to speak to an audience? What does it feel like when you finish? How does it feel to like share your message or your wisdom or your expertise? Like, really truly embody it. And if you can think and connect to that feeling in that moment, I promise you it's going to help you along the way. And there's lots of athletes that use this and have shared this either in their interviews, in podcast episodes that they've been in as well. And a huge part of their success is they visualize it. And of course, it links to their belief, which I will cover in a separate episode. And I think the last thing I want to say, actually, because I read something recently and somebody said they were kind of dismissing manifestation. And they said, I'm not really of the belief that you should manifest or you can manifest and you just call something into your life. I'm really about that you have to do the hard work and set your intentions and set your goals and make sure that you tick your goals off. And I think one of the misconceptions about manifesting is that you just put it out to the world, don't do any work, and it's just going to come back at you. Doesn't really work like that. So the thing I do want to say is that part of manifesting means putting in the work. Like, you can manifest, you can connect to the feeling, you can be super specific and super clear, but if you don't do anything about it, guess what, guys? Like, it's not coming your way. Like, there is no two ways about that. So I thought that was a really helpful way to describe it, because manifesting is about doing the work. Like, it is about achieving your goals, and it is about understanding, like, what action am I taking? You don't always have to know like the right action. You just have to keep taking action. And example, if I just manifested and never messaged him, it probably wouldn't have happened, right? Or if I just visualized it, but I didn't actually do something about it. So I thought it was helpful to actually bust that myth and slide that one in before we wrap the episode. So I hope you've got a little bit of an insight into how I manifested it. I hope it's brought you a little bit of joy and inspiration today. But I also hope it's kind of recapped tools that I know I've shared before and that I know I've spoken about. Like, visualizing is an incredibly powerful tool, connecting to the feeling of why do you want it? Sometimes we forget so much that we think we should want something. And as much as I haven't spoken about this today, I feel like I have in previous episodes. Like, of course, you have to do the work. And it's not so much about doing the right thing, but it's about taking a step, because the universe can respond to you. And remember, I always say the universe is communicating with you so often. Like, you're going to get nudges from the universe. And I think with my one-to-one clients, they have brought so many examples to their sessions lately. And I said, okay. I was like, the universe is nudging you. They're like, oh yeah. But they took a step and they asked for something, or they showed that they wanted something, and the universe then responded to that. So guys, I want to say thank you for what I hope was a beautiful first episode. This is also my first time where we're taking this on video. So let's see how this lands with everybody. But a big, big thank you. You know, I love each and every single one of you for being here. I don't take this lightly. So please share. If there's one thing you're taking out today, you know I want to know that. Tag me in your stories, subscribe, please share with a friend. And I'll see you all back here for episode 2. Guys, thanks for joining us for another conversation this week. You know the deal by now, so please hit subscribe, leave a review. Don't forget to share this with a friend. And if you want to come and hang out with me, then click Instagram. You'll find me at _communication expert.